Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Helping the enemy. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. It is day 11 in the Iran hostage situation. That country has humiliated the 15 British service people they kidnapped, and the world really doesn't care. That's because, somewhat incredibly, the USA and Great Britain are looked upon by many as the major threats in the world, not the Islamic fascists. Here in America, the far-left extremists are running wild. Over the past few days, I've interviewed a number of radicals on the factor so you could see just how far out they really are.
John Yoo, one of the top lawyers of George Bush's administration, said in a public debate that George Bush has the right to torture somebody, including, I quote, by crushing the testicles of their small child in front of them.
I think that what we have done in the Middle East, we have been our worst enemy. We're creating more and more enemies every single day.
So we provoked Iran? We provoked them?
Absolutely. We look at what we did in Iraq.
But interesting, with the British sailors, there were 15 British sailors and Marines who apparently went into Iranian waters, and they were seized by the Iranians. And I have one thing to say: Gulf of Tonkin. Google it.
Well, Ms. O'Donnell and her radical pals are basically telling the world the USA is a criminal nation, and that no matter what provocations are lodged by Iran and others, it will always be America's fault. This is grossly irresponsible and flat-out dangerous, but believe me when I tell you that millions of people all over the world are buying this garbage. A new poll in Germany, for example, asked who's the biggest threat to world peace, the USA or Iran? 48% of Germans said the USA, 31% Iran. Incredible. O'Donnell and actor Charlie Sheen are also peddling the 9/11 conspiracy theory that the attack on the World Trade Center was an inside job. Never mind, that nonsense has been debunked by popular mechanics using scientific evidence that is beyond dispute. O'Donnell and Sheen are in it because they hate Bush, not because of any truth-seeking. Today's Investors Business Daily newspaper labeled Miss O'Donnell Tokyo Rosie, editorializing that her anti-American propaganda has reached hysterical levels. Now, Miss O'Donnell isn't smart enough to realize that while she is demeaning her own country, the one she's hurting most is herself and the company that pays her, ABC. Americans always turn away from haters, always, and that's what Miss O'Donnell has become. Summing up, the radical left has to be held accountable because it's distorting the truth, putting American military people in even more jeopardy abroad, and even intimidating politicians like John Edwards and Bill Richardson. This is a group that has now burrowed on to the mainstream stage and is doing damage. And that's the memo. More on this coming up with Michelle Malkin and Kirsten Powers. But first, the top story tonight. What should the USA and Britain do about Iran? Joining us now from Jacksonville, Florida, is Ambassador Nancy Soderberg, author of the book, The Superpower Myth, The Use and Misuse of American Might. And from Long Island, New York, Congressman Peter King, ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, we begin with you. Is it true Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker of the House, wouldn't let the House vote on condemning Iran over this British hostage situation?
Bill, if that's so, I'm not aware of it. I was not, that's the first I've heard that.
Okay, there was a report today from the Washington Times. It said, quote, before the House adjourned on Thursday, Nancy Pelosi refused to permit a vote on House Resolution 267, which condemns Iran for the illegal seizure of British Marines and sailors. You don't know anything about it?
No, that must have been behind the scenes. There was nothing public about that, and I certainly wasn't made aware of it, no.
I think it's true. All right, we'll check it further, and
fine.
What do we do now, Congressman? I mean, look, this is an intentional provocation. Iran is thumbing its nose at the USA and Britain. We all know that. Iran seems to be winning, showing the world that the superpowers are afraid of it. What should we do now?
Well, if I could just go back about a week or so, I have a great regard for Tony Blair, but I don't think he was outspoken enough from the start. What should we do now? There has to be much more pressure put on our allies, certainly the European Union, on the Germans, on the UN Security Council, to impose real economic sanctions on Iran and let them know those sanctions are coming, because that does have an impact on them. It certainly has an impact on the people within Iran. And this is one country in the Middle East where I would say a majority of the people are with the United States. As far as the military, I think we should have a military presence in the Persian Gulf as far as carriers, and we have to make it known behind the scenes, at the very least, to the Iranians that the military option is not off the table. Ultimately, this is the British fight because it's their 15 service members, but obviously involves us tremendously, and we have to work closely with the British. But again, I would say really strong economic sanctions, and then also increasing a military presence.